There is a deep misunderstanding in the world today. People believe that being alone is a sign of weakness, of failure, or of being unwanted. But solitude in its pure form is not a deficiency. It is not a punishment. It is a sacred space, a quiet path walked by those who dare to meet themselves without distraction. In the absence of noise, one begins to hear what was always present: the heartbeat, the breath, the tension held in the shoulders. The quiet cravings of the mind. Solitude invites us to notice not only the world around us, but the inner landscape we have ignored. It is the beginning of intimacy with our own being. Emptiness feels cold only when the mind resists it. But when the mind settles, solitude becomes a fire, a place of transformation. The caterpillar retreats into darkness not because it is lost, but because change must take place away from the eyes of the world. So too must the man who seeks clarity allow himself to disappear for a while. There is fear in being alone. That fear does not come from solitude itself, but from the mind's refusal to be still. We are addicted to distraction because distraction delays the truth. In solitude, there is no one left to blame, no one to impress. There is only the mirror, and the mirror does not flatter. To sit alone is to come face to face with the weight of your own thoughts. Some will be kind, some will be sharp. But each one is a teacher. The mind is a room filled with voices. When the external world goes silent, those voices become loud, and it is here that you begin the real training, not of the body, but of attention. A man who has not sat in silence does not yet know the shape of his own soul. In solitude, we learn to speak with our breath, to understand the language of tension, to see how the mind wanders without cause. We learn that stillness is not the absence of movement, but the mastery of it. Many seek companionship to avoid the discomfort of their own presence, but this only builds dependence. True strength is built when you can walk through the valley of your own mind and not run. When you can sit with discomfort, observe it, and let it pass like a cloud over a mountain. That is solitude. That is presence. The one who does not fear solitude is no longer desperate for company. He walks through the world not as a beggar of affection, but as a source of peace. Because he knows that solitude is not emptiness. It is fullness without noise. It is the still river beneath the rushing surface. Many search for connection as if it lies outside themselves. They chase people, conversations, and attention, hoping to feel complete. But one truth remains constant. No relationship will ever feel whole until the relationship with oneself is made whole. Companionship begins not when another arrives, but when you stop abandoning yourself. The man who cannot sit with his own mind will always feel alone, even in a crowd. He may surround himself with laughter, but inside there is noise he cannot quiet. He may receive praise, yet still feel unseen. Until he becomes a friend to his own being, every external bond will feel fragile. To be a companion to yourself means to listen without judgment. It means observing your thoughts without trying to escape them, allowing emotions to rise without trying to numb them. Most people listen to others more deeply than they ever listen to themselves. This is why their inner world grows distant and unfamiliar. When you begin to understand your needs without shame, when you can sit with your sadness without labeling it weakness, something shifts. You stop seeking people to fix you and start inviting people who walk beside you, not to complete you, but to share the path. A man at peace with himself walks differently. He does not chase love, he shares it. He does not grasp at attention because he does not need it to feel alive. Companionship, for him, is not a medicine, but a reflection. He looks at others and sees himself. He looks at himself and holds others with more gentleness. The world often teaches that love is a transaction. I give you something, so you must give something in return. But the inner companion asks nothing. He walks beside you in every mood, every mistake, every moment of doubt. He does not leave when you are tired or failing. To become that companion to yourself is a higher form of loyalty. The one who befriends his own silence no longer fears rejection. The one who has wept in solitude and still stood up the next morning knows a resilience deeper than comfort. This is not arrogance, it is rootedness. You are no longer swayed by passing winds because you have found anchor in your own presence. Before you extend your hand to another, you must first hold your own. Not with force, but with patience. Not with pride, but with understanding. For only when you have made peace with your own company can you truly offer peace to another. Every relationship carries an invisible weight. Not in words, but in assumptions. Not in actions, but in silent hopes. People rarely say what they truly expect, yet they carry disappointment when those expectations are not met. This is the quiet burden we place on others, and often the chain we do not see around our own necks. To expect is to demand the world to move according to your design, but the world is not yours to command. People are not here to fulfill a script you have written in secret. When friendship becomes a transaction, the purity of connection is lost. The heart begins to measure rather than receive. The mind attaches to outcomes. If they cared, they would do this. If they loved me, they would say that. But true companionship is not measured by how well someone meets your mental checklist. It is felt in the quiet consistency of their presence, not in their performance of roles. Expectations are born from desire, and desire often from insecurity. We want others to say the right things so we can feel safe. We want others to act in ways that protect our image of ourselves. But these are not relationships. They are control disguised as closeness. When control enters, freedom leaves. When you release expectations, something opens. You begin to see people as they are, not as you wish them to be. This is not the same as lowering standards. It is seeing clearly. It is choosing to value what is real over what is imagined. It is loving without holding someone hostage to your unspoken demands. The man who expects nothing cannot be disappointed, but this does not mean he is cold. It means he is free. He gives without calculating return. He listens without needing agreement. His peace is not built upon the behavior of others. It is grounded in something more steady, his own clarity. Expectations often lead to resentment, not because others fail us, but because we have failed to communicate what lives in our minds. And when we communicate with conditions, I will be kind if you are, we turn the heart into a contract. In time, such arrangements collapse under their own weight. To walk lightly in relationship is to carry no secret demands, to speak when needed, and accept when it is not. This is not passivity. It is maturity. It is recognizing that love cannot grow in the shadow of control, and connection cannot breathe when smothered by obligation. Noise is everywhere. The world speaks loudly. Opinions, messages, distractions, demands. We are pulled in 1,000 directions before we have even stood up in the morning. But amid the chaos, there is something that waits patiently, without force. That something is inner silence, and it is not absence. It is presence without disturbance. Silence is not the enemy of thought. It is the container that gives thought its meaning. Without silence, words lose their shape. Without pause, movement becomes frantic. Silence is the space between the notes that makes music possible. It is not what you remove, it is what you return to. Most people fear silence because they cannot control what rises in it. In silence, the mind reveals what noise has hidden. Restlessness, fear, confusion. They surface without warning. But what arises is not the problem. It is only the beginning of awareness. Inner silence does not create discomfort. It exposes what was already there. To befriend silence is to stand unarmed before yourself. Nothing to prove, nothing to defend. You learn to sit in stillness and observe the patterns of your mind, the habits, the attachments, the illusions. And slowly, without judgment, you begin to see what is true beyond the story. This silence does not demand perfection. It does not punish or praise. It simply reflects. Like a still lake, it shows the shape of everything that moves above it. And in that reflection, you begin to see that much of your suffering is not caused by life itself, but by the noise you add to it. The one who cultivates inner silence walks through the world with a different rhythm. He speaks less, but says more. He listens not only with ears, but with awareness. He responds, but does not react. Silence gives him space between the impulse and the action, between what happens and how he meets it. In silence, the mind becomes a servant, not a master. You no longer chase every thought or emotion as if it were urgent. You learn to witness without being pulled. Like watching clouds drift across the sky, you observe what arises and falls, untouched by the weather of your inner world. Many seek allies in the form of people, status, or certainty. But these change with time. Inner silence does not change. It cannot be taken, only ignored. And the more you return to it, the more you realize it is not something you need to find. It has always been with you, waiting for your attention. We often enter relationships with a quiet hope that someone else will heal what we have not faced within ourselves, that their presence will soothe our restlessness, fill our emptiness, or silence our fears. But people are not medicine. They are mirrors. They do not cure us. They show us where the wound still lives. The friend who frustrates you, the partner who disappoints you, the stranger who triggers you, all of them reflect something deeper than their actions. They reveal the places in you that are still reactive, still fragile, still waiting for your attention. This is not their fault. It is your opportunity. When you treat others as medicine, you make them responsible for your peace. You begin to rely on their behavior to feel balanced. If they are kind, you feel worthy. If they withdraw, you feel broken. But no one can carry the weight of your unresolved self. That is a task only you can accept. Mirrors do not comfort. They show, and sometimes what they show is uncomfortable. But without that reflection, growth becomes blind. A man who avoids mirrors never sees the food on his face or the dust in his eyes. He may feel clean, but his image deceives him. Clarity requires confrontation. This is why some of the most valuable people in your life may not always feel pleasant. They awaken what you've buried. They disturb the story you've built, not because they intend to harm you, but because their presence calls forth the truth. A mirror has no intention. It only reflects what stands before it. To shift from seeking medicine to accepting mirrors is to reclaim your power. You stop asking others to rescue you. Instead, you ask, what is this showing me about myself? This question transforms frustration into insight, pain into practice. Every conflict becomes a doorway into deeper understanding. Some people will reflect your strength, others your insecurity. Some will show you what love feels like, others what fear disguises itself as. But in every encounter, the lesson is not about them. It is about what is touched within you. The reaction is yours, the work is yours, the reflection is the gift. A man who knows this no longer blames others for his suffering. He uses every relationship as a tool, not a crutch. He sees others not as saviors, but as signals. They remind him of what still needs alignment. They show him where he has grown and where he still resists his own truth. True connection is not built from need. It grows from presence. But many seek connection from a place of hunger. They come with a full cup, full of assumptions, past wounds, desires, and fear, and they pour it into another, hoping to be filled in return. Yet a full cup cannot receive. To connect, one must first become empty. Emptiness is often misunderstood. It is not numbness, not lack, not despair. It is space. Space within the self where clinging has ceased, where silence has settled, and where grasping no longer distorts the purity of what is offered. In emptiness, you are not seeking to take. You are open to receive. When you empty yourself of stories, who you should be, what others should give you, meet people as they are, not as characters in your unfinished narrative. And in doing so, you give them the rare gift of freedom. You allow them to be themselves without bending to your needs or fears. This is where real intimacy begins. Most relationships suffer not from cruelty, but from clutter. The clutter of ego, of expectation, of past pain, brought forward into the present. When two people carry their emotional baggage into each other's space, the connection becomes strained, not because love is absent, but because clarity is. To connect authentically, you must be willing to arrive with nothing. No mask to protect you, no agenda to push, no image to maintain. It is in that nakedness that another person sees something real, not the performance, but the presence. And presence is what the heart recognizes as truth. This emptiness does not mean silence between people. It means silence within, an inner stillness that allows you to listen without interruption from your own thoughts. It allows you to see another clearly, without the lens of your own projection. It allows you to speak, not to impress, but to express. A man who has emptied himself of need does not love from desperation. He loves from overflow. His words are not tools of persuasion, but instruments of truth. His presence does not demand, it invites. In this way, his relationships are not cages. They are gardens, tended with care and rooted in freedom. The deeper the emptiness, the more room there is for connection to grow. Not rushed, not forced, not designed to serve the ego, but allowed to unfold in its own time with its own rhythm. Because what is born from stillness carries the strength of the mountain and the softness of the river.